Absolutely. And you mentioned Zion Williamson, which coincidentally is what my rant is about.
Is
And
that what it is?
it is actually. And speaking of our audience, this comes from a friend of ours and an audience member, a guy who's been very supportive of Sim Nation, but was a guest on that show once, K Dre. And he asked us to
Yeah.
chime in on the Zion Williamson thing. So shout outs to you. Again, we appreciate everybody watching the show and giving us feedback. I thought this was a good one for us to tackle because I'll be honest with you, I was a little hot on this one when it came up last week. This idea that Zion Williamson should he sit out, and
Yeah.
I wasn't hot because of him sitting out to protect his future if that
hmm
was required, or quite frankly, if he felt like it. I was hot on all of the people coming out acting like Duke is paying him.
Hmm.
There are a lot of people comparing his commitment to Duke to an NBA player's commitment to their contract. See, that is the actual difference. That is why he would sit out
hmm
because he's not getting paid. If they start paying him, they don't have to worry about him sitting out because he'll have an obligation to them. He's not on a wage and he's making them millions and millions of dollars. And collectively, the NCAA, athletic student body is making them billions of dollars and nobody is being paid. And if somebody's making money off you and they're not paying you, you do whatever you damn well please. That's not a commitment.
Yeah.
In this current state of the NBA and the NCAA, it's coercion.
Yeah.
And people want to say, oh, well, these guys are going to make millions. First of all all of these kids aren't going to make millions. And the scholarships that they're on aren't all favorable. You play here for a season and you get 4 years of school out of it. Scholarships. Some of them are you better show up next year or you're out of here scholarships. And the transfer rules are also extremely unfriendly. So, and these are kids with not a lot of options in terms of their ability to move around in that situation. It's basically coercing people to work for free. And for some reason, we're still okay with it. I don't know why. When people work for free and they make you a lot of money and they don't get paid, that we have a word for that. And it's not a black white thing because there's plenty of white athletes getting screwed over too. Plenty of Asian, Latino, everybody's getting screwed over if you an athlete for the NCAA. Until you a coach, you're not benefiting from this stuff, or equipment manager or something like that. So these kids need to be put out of a system where they should play for somebody for free, and it needs to become more like it is in other sports or other countries, where you know they are being trained to make money over the course of their short careers because most people stop playing by the time they're 30, 32 years old. So it's not a whole lot of earning time that they have. So if you, as a college student, feel at any moment that your earning potential that you only have for roughly a decade is in danger, absolutely take your shoes off and stop playing because you are not obligated to these people to do anything.
Man, yeah, I totally agree. I mean, um, it is amazing to me how selfish sports fans can be.
Yeah.
It really truly amazes me. It amazes me on so many different levels. And doing what I do, being in contact, writing articles, producing content that people have the option to comment on, you I see it, the audacity and the selfishness that some sports fans have. Like they completely remove the humanity from athletes.
You're right.
Completely. It's like you are not a human. I am a fan. I bought a ticket once. You know what I mean? I subscribed to League Pass until I realized my boy had the hookup and I didn't have to do it anymore. I own you. I own you, and you should do my bidding. And and they refuse to think about these people as people. And I'm not talking about in terms of giving people second chances and all that stuff, because we'll talk a little bit about athletes and second chances a little bit later. But I'm talking about just in making decisions that are best for them. Like, they forget that this is a person's job or livelihood or career, and every person has the right to do what they think is best for them in their career. Screw how much you want to see him dunk at Duke. No, that's not really what he has to think about. If he gets caught up thinking about how much you want to see him continue to play, he will hurt himself more so than anything. And yes, the NCAA is basically legal pimping.
Hmm.
I mean, it's what it is, man. I mean,
Well,
these
hookers get paid.
you're right. You're right. You're right. They do. They do. I mean, it's just it's insane, man, because that's insane in itself. But and the other thing that you mentioned that I think is really interesting is how many people don't understand the process.
Yeah.
They don't understand what's going on. You think that honoring a college scholarship is the same as honoring a contract,
Right.
a professional contract where money is being transferred. Like, it's not. It's not the same. And it also always amazes me how the people lowest on the totem pole get held to the highest moral standard.
Right.
That always amazes me. So it's like when LeBron James, and obviously we're talking about a very highly paid athlete in this situation, but when LeBron James gets criticized for the decision because he should have had the decency to let Dan Gilbert know that he was leaving, as opposed to saying it on, in a special on national television. But no owner or general manager ever gets criticized for not notifying a player when they're going to
Oh,
release them.
that's the business. When they do it, that's
When
the
they do it,
business.
it's the business.
When the player
When
does
the
it, you
player
have no
does it,
character.
he has no character.
Yeah.
So
Nonsense.
when a coach recruits a kid and says, "Hey, I'm gonna do this," and they sits in the living room with a parent and say, "I'm gonna take care of your kid. I know you can't be with him every day. I know you've been with him for 4 years or for his whole life, and but now you're gonna send him to me for college, and I'm gonna take care of him." And then that coach gets an offer from another school,
Mm-hmm.
and 2 weeks later tells the kid, "Oh, I'm not gonna be here anymore." But
Mm-hmm.
my kid decided that he wanted to go, and we decided I'm gonna send my kid to the school because you made us feel comfortable. And now you got a better offer and you're leaving. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with him doing that, but don't then turn around and criticize this kid when he makes a decision that's best for him. So as fans, we get so caught up in what we want to see and how we want to be entertained that we expect for these people not to be people. And it's like, it's crazy. I mean, this might seem like it's a little far off, but this to me further explains just how selfish fans can be. The Washington football team, and I really don't even like saying the name, right? The Washington football team, there are people who have said, "Hey, I find that the name of the team offensive,
Yeah.
because it's essentially like calling, a black person the N-word. That's pretty much what it is, right?" And then, of course, there's some Native Americans that say, "Well, I don't find it offensive." But then there's a whole faction of them that said, "Yes,
Right.
this is offensive." You will get and I'm if I have some fans from the DMC in this, you will get people who will come at you with just viciousness, talking about how that shouldn't happen. Don't change the name of my football team. Now, forget the fact that there are human
Right.
beings someplace saying that I find that offensive. And they have they're not just saying, just coming pulling something out of the sky. This is a legitimate thing that's easy to see. Yes, I find that offensive. People are so attached to their football team or to this tradition that they have, that they literally don't care about how other people feel, because they're that selfish about their sports. And this, it's insane, man. It really blows my mind at times. And nobody loves sports more than me. There is
Right.
nobody on the planet that loves sports more than I do. Like, I have loved it since I can remember. I'm talking about, my mother said I would be sitting in my high chair and she'd be trying to feed me Sports would come on television. I would do this and I wouldn't watch anymore. I wouldn't eat anymore until it went off. Nobody loves sports more than me. But I don't ever want to be to the point where I love sports so much that I stop caring about people.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. When you care about people, sports is beautiful because it allows us to connect without taking the really personal cultural stuff like religion and politics into the conversation, but we could still go at it hard. We could still compete for real without killing each other
Yeah.
because it's sport. That is what sport is. We do it for sport, to test ourselves and each other, to find out our character through each other, to find things in common with each other and root for this thing together or root against this thing together. But it relies on you caring about people. And in the case, and the other thing is, as people, these guys are kids.
Yeah.
These are young people. Like, I know a lot of athletes because they're so developed. A lot of them look older than they really
Yes.
are.
Yes.
If you're an adult watching this show, think of how little you knew at 17 years old when when these guys are making their final decisions on these schools.
Mm-hmm.
It's like terrifying. Think of,
Mm-hmm.
like, you talk about a coach talking to you about the recruiting and all that stuff. How young this kid is, his transference or her transference into adulthood is what they're talking about. And then that coach leaves. That was their mentor for the next however many years of their life that they were going to use to establish the tools to allow them to be an adult. And that just gets pulled out from under their feet. And we just go, yeah, but he got a good offer. Again, I'm not saying he's wrong to do it, but just because that coach isn't necessarily wrong for doing what's in their best interest doesn't mean we should lose sight of the cost that these kids are going through. And that's just one of the many costs that
It's one
they're
of the many.
asked for,
I
and
mean,
they sacrifice their time and their bodies
it's
for the
crazy, man,
sport.
because it's like this. You go to school, if you go to a university or whatever, you're allowed to have like a job on campus. Maybe you work in the library, maybe you work in the cafeteria, maybe you work in the history department or with, something like that. You're allowed to have this job that you do and you get paid for it on campus, right? Those people who have those jobs don't put in anywhere near the hours that the collegiate athlete puts in. And they're allowed to get paid for
Mm-hmm.
what they do, and what they do honestly doesn't contribute anywhere near the amount of money that the athletic departments do. That Nothing, nowhere near it, but they're allowed to get paid. So the collegiate athlete, and they can be on scholarship too. They can
And
be on and still get paid.
100% with you. And in Zion's case, I'm gonna close out my part of this with this. I think he should tell the NCAA to kick rocks, even though he's not hurt. Because think about this: Zion is so popular that with a shoe deal and commercials and the agent, think of how much money he would make between now and the
Yes,
and the NBA draft, and his draft stock wouldn't change at all.
wouldn't
He's
change at all.
literally only doing this basically for his teammates, the coaching, which obviously Coach K is,
Yeah,
legend, arguably, the greatest, definitely one of the greatest.
absolutely.
Um, but that's it. Everything else, he's just doing it because he got everything he needed out of the NCAA. His draft stock is locked up. His celebrity status is locked up, and he could make a lot of money between now and before he even signs his first NBA contract if he were to leave. So NCAA kick rocks as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, man, it's really it's absolutely crazy. I mean, and don't get me wrong, I love basketball and I love watching Zion, and I love wondering about what Duke can do, and if he was to stop playing, yeah, that would hurt college basketball. It really would. But you know what? You know how they could stop it? Start paying these kids,
Mm-hmm.
sign them to contracts, start paying them. If you sign them to contracts and start paying them, then you don't have to worry about a kid talking about he's not going to play. There it is, because he's contractually obligated to play. And then at that point, if he doesn't play, now we can talk about his character,
Mm-hmm.
because now we can say you reneged on an agreement,
Mm-hmm.
on an actual official legal agreement.
Yeah, it's
That
not an agreement if I'm twisting your arm up behind your back and saying do it or else I'll take the rest of your career away.
Yeah, it's not an agreement. So
It's not an
and it's
agreement.
going to take it's I mean, we're seeing it in football already. You
Mm-hmm.
know, a lot of guys are foregoing, like Nick Bosa.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa's little brother. That's what he did. That's pretty much what he did. He sat out almost this entire season you know, this entire season basically, and he's going to be the #1 pick in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody already knows. They already know. So it is what it is.
Pocket, I'll be weak. I'm rather unique.